Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone.
Yeah.
Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you.
Yeah.
I walked out this morning and I wrote down this song. I just can't remember who to send it to.
So much pressure and pain, there's a stress in the game.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Westworld Theorycast. My name, of course, is Justin Thomas from TopShelf Fandom. I have been filling in and will be filling in with Axel. He will be back next week to join us on what I'm calling now my takeover. He's going to try to take it back at the last minute, so we're going to have a Maeve and Dolores fight. We'll see who loses an arm. I know who we're not losing. My lovely co-hosts, Brett and Jenny. Say hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hey, Justin.
Awesome, thank you. And today we're going to be talking about Westworld Season 3, Episode 7, Past Pawn. Now, you can find out more about the DVR network at dvrpodcast.com, and please do take a moment to write a review and subscribe. It really does help us, and you could become a Patreon by going to patreon.com/DVR. Let's get into the show. So I, again, want to just start this off very simple, people. Keep it very, very base level. How'd you feel overall? We'll go to you first, Brett.
I actually love the episode. It different from the episode before. It wasn't a whole lot, not as much exposition, I would say, but we did get a whole new world, literally, in Solomon, which I think opens up a bunch of interesting possibilities. But overall, I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. How about you, Jenny?
I actually loved it on my first watch and on my second watch. So I was the reverse of Axel. He talked about it on the podcast with Ken on Monday, but he had been chatting with some of us via text all day, and he was not impressed on Sunday at all. He was he didn't hate it or anything, and he wasn't totally down on it, but he was like, I didn't like it. And we were all like, oh, really? Because like the whole group of us, we were all like, we really liked it. And so when he had his rewatch, he turned around quite a bit. But me, when I had my rewatch, I found more flaws in it than I had on my initial watch, but I still really, really enjoyed it and thought it was a solid episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, I also talked to him. I have this message right here. What group am I not part of, Axel? I'm glad I'm good enough to be a host, but not good enough to be a part of your life. So we will talk about that later. So I said Monday, 2:39 a.m. because this is after the dust settles. I said, how'd you like the episode? He said, I must admit, I have mixed feelings. I said, as do I. And then I went into a series of issues I had with it, and then he did message me before this and let me know that they did go over some of those on Monday, and I didn't get to listen to it. So he says that the sentiment seems to be what you're saying. Of course, I don't really know because I'm not a part of this exclusive group. But yeah, no, I got all my. I was happy with the episode. I do have some issues. There is a lot of this, this foresight. A lot of characters are foreseeing things that are going to happen that seem to pose these illogical decisions as being logical, and we'll dive deep into that, meaning Bernard specifically with the keeping the MIB alive after he says, if you're going to kill me, now is the time, and he's like, we might need him, and they're like, no, you don't, and then he immediately tries to do it. There's a lot of stuff that is leaning towards this whole everybody knew everything chess master story, which was done really well in season 1 with Dr. Ford, and I really don't think that you can replicate that and have it turn out to be nearly as good. I think it will cheapen it, so we'll just have to see. So talking about bringing back,
I gotta say one more thing. Bernard is clearly like Jon Snow, and he knows nothing. Like, I mean, he knows stuff, but like he's just like giving us exposition every time he's on screen. But like as far as any plan, he knows zero things. And I had a problem with the fact that the story, Caleb's backstory, the way that they piecemealed it out through the episode, I felt like they could have done in a better fashion on my rewatch.
Ooh, we'll talk about that. Yeah, he is not only like Jon Snow, but he's also like Tyrion, because he used to be really smart, and now he's really stupid when it's convenient. And yeah, it's just not making a whole lot of sense. Like his logic, he's been, like I said, like a Cracker Jack box detective since the beginning here. And it's, he is more so like in the pitch meeting, they're asking why something happens, and he's like, because we need the story to happen. Like that's pretty much what he said.
He gives you all the little details. He like is the person for exposition this whole season, and that's like all he does.
I wouldn't even call it exposition, though. I would say it is more of so.
He fills us in on the stuff that we don't necessarily know. I mean, it could be the thing that people were talking about this season has been dumbed down because people complained that they didn't understand it before. And I could see that point with Bernard, like telling us the stuff that we couldn't. Even Maeve did that in the first episode that she was really in, not the stinger scene. Was that episode 2? I don't remember.
The Winter
anyway.
Line, I think it was.
Yeah. She even did that. I mean, they've like had these moments where they're just like basically putting everything out there to make sure that people understand. And that's been Bernard's whole thing this whole season.
Yeah, I was just saying what it seems like he's saying more so, because it's never a lot of detail. It's just
right.
that, hey, this seems stupid, but it's not going to be later, so don't worry, guys. Like that's what it's. He said that on several occasions, not in those exact words, but yeah, I've had a little bit of an issue with that, because I'm like, yeah, it seems like the foreseeable future, the immediate events, the in the moment logic is not there, so it leads. We'll get to the whole Doctor Strange situation on it, but overall, I thought for a penultimate episode, it did what it needed to do, and. I'm not going to say I loved every part of it, because there is still a lot left on the table for Caleb, and I do agree with you about how they plotted it out. So, but let's start with a little bit of fan service. Clemmy's back. She is back. How are hosts coming back? I know Sirach can bring them back, but it does seem to minimalize the Pearl. I know that Dolores doesn't have them and she needs them, but I feel like they're kind of taking away the stakes behind that. But I do like that Clementine is back. And Clementine is back with her hero... Hanario. Yeah. Shogun World's Armistice. So they meet with Musashi, who is speaking with somebody at a bar, having an alcoholic beverage. Do you want to take it from there, Brett? Because they are plotting and ploying and making up all sorts of secret plans.
Yeah, well, he has this weird suitcase thing that he hands to a gentleman and says, well, first I think they asked, have we located him? And I wasn't sure if they were referring to Sirach or maybe this friend that they need to deliver this mystery package to. But basically he takes it and he says, to deliver it, and if you can't make it, don't worry about coming back because there's chaos in the streets or something to that effect. So it makes you wonder what's in the box and where's it going.
Yeah, because that kind of implies that if the box is delivered successfully, that chaos will cease to be in the streets, right?
Possibly, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It could have that in there. Yeah, hey, there we go. There I am with, hey, it could be. But no, that is an interesting little piece of dialogue right there. It's like, don't bother, come back. Not because, you failed at your, job, but because of the chaos in the streets. So is this some type of hint that obviously there is this, master plan that we are yet to be let in on, as Westworld does. But Musashi is a bit player on screen, but seems to have an important job in the overall story arc. So it'll be interesting to see how they tie that together. Any thoughts on that, Jenny?
Well, I thought it was interesting when they brought, or when he got the call from Charlotte, and even seeing where you couldn't really see Charlotte other than just like her face and all the shadows, and it was like, well, she clearly had some kind of healing done, because she was not looking as rough as she was at the end of the last episode. But one of the things that I questioned in that scene was she said when she was talking to him that she would have paid him a visit herself, but she's a little busy. So she had leaked his location to someone who's eager to catch up with him, which then turned out to be Clementine and then Hanario. But so I question that because I'm like, so did she just provide that information to Clementine, or are they in cahoots together and all working for Maeve? I don't know. He's a bit player, but he is one of the Dolores clones, or the Dolori, as you and so many others call them.
No, people keep saying Dolores is prime and all that. They're really going against my Dolores. I think is far superior. This is fight. Yeah,
you're not the only one that calls it Dolores. The Vanity Fair, the lady that does the Vanity Fair podcast on it. I can't remember what it's called, but
the Vanity Fair podcast.
Joanne. She's a Game of Thrones person too. Anyway,
you had me at Vanity Fair.
She calls them Dolores too. So you're not the only one.
Well, I just want to make sure that they're not just coming at me and trying to discredit. So yeah, look at that, validated finally. Yeah.
But like when they got the Musashi Loris's pearl.
Ooh, I like that. I don't know if I can say it myself, but I like it.
Like Char Loris, Musashi Loris, Martin Loris.
Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence is
yeah, sort of. So another thing I since I was wondering if Clementine and Hanario are working with Charlotte. If so, she's captured a second version of Dolores, plus she had the control unit of the third Dolores, Martin. So if she has 3 Dolori on her side, because herself, plus at least Clementine and Hanario, what is she planning? Why does the Musashi bot think there's a he master? Because he says, something about your master and him and whatever. Does that Musashi bot believe that Serac is controlling the Charlotte bot and the other hosts he created for Maeve? I'm just like, I don't know what to think about all of that, but I really liked this scene. This was when I was like, holy fucking shit. And I posted that on the Westworld Theorycast webpage.
Yeah. I was like, how well said.
I was thinking that he was referring to Serac because Serac is the one that brought.
Well, I assumed that that the he was Serac, yeah.
Right. And I'm sure Musashi knows that. So
I'm so happy that you guys are bringing that up because I made a big deal about that on the after show because that really stuck out to me as well. I'm like, is he a misogynistic piece of shit that just thinks only men can be in charge? Because I'm not with that, people. You know what I mean?
I'm assuming that he thinks that Serac is controlling Clementine and Hanario, but I would think that when when Charlotte said to him that I leaked your location or whatever, that especially with it being like a Dolores clone, who Dolores is got some intelligence level. So with it being a Dolores clone, why would it not have made that logical leap to think that, oh, these two might be, clearly Charlotte was pissed off. So they might all be siding on the, together.
Yeah, best not look into that. Yeah, I agree. Brett, did you have anything on that?
Well, I can't remember exactly what Clementine said, but I think it was pretty confrontational. So I think it was pretty obvious based on the tone that Hale used over the phone. And then the first couple of lines with Clementine that he was not dealing with hosts that Dolores brought back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess his line where he says, you and May have had some practice selling yourselves, but I thought you'd be more selective about a buyer, would probably be referring to Serac.
Yeah, and so the question that comes down to is, okay, they seemingly are working for Serac, but does that mean that they're in league with Maeve as well? Because just because they seemingly have the same master at the moment doesn't mean that they're in cahoots. Serac could have this compartmentalized a little bit, so that's something still to be. I'm leaning towards that there is a shared interest, but not like a direct connection, with them so far. But it's odd that they brought back Maeve's people though, so it's like that's hard to explain.
Well, that's who the bodies were already being printed. for Maeve or whatever.
Yeah, so but they're serving Hales. Yeah, so again, it could be, yeah.
Right. And I think that when because Clementine's answer to him there was that neither of them are for sale. And she said, I'm here because of you and you alone, your actions, your plans. I would think that should have indicated to him that she was on Charlotte's side. Now, I'm not this is where I'm going with it. That's what I think is going on.
Well, that makes sense, you know what I mean? But it also, I do, one little side note before we move on to them cutting to the chase, because, they cut with the samurai sword. It was
I loved
cool.
when she broke her glass and then took out those dudes. That was pretty good.
That's actually the most realistic fighting I've seen. Yeah, that was good. That and that gunshot wound from Hale in the damn elevator. I still think that guy's dead for real. They're like, you guys want to do CG? They're like, no, just kill him. He's not even a featured extra. He's like, what? They're like, yeah, well, you're good. But no, she shows signs that she is, still Clementine, right? Because she was zombie Clementine. I forget the exact dialogue, but she does the finger thing. She does her actions are very much so from season 1 Clementine. So this is the Clementine in which we used to know. And she's back, and I'm very excited for that. And I think that's cool because, we had crazy zombie. That was just, moving the plot.
Lobotomized.
Yeah, that was a plot device right there. Yeah, just dragging Bernard and Elsie everywhere. Wait, how do we get there? We'll have Clementine drag.
Clementine drag.
Yeah, perfect. Early lunch, guys. Okay, so we'll get to Maeve and all that a little bit later. Let's talk about riding on a white horse, a black horse, up to what seemingly is pretty much Westworld in the real world, right? What is the location of this?
Sonora, Mexico.
Sonora, Mexico. So they're going up to Insight's headquarters, and now my first observation, and still my observation on this is, man, do I wish Caleb would have said, hey, what exactly is going on at some point. Because it keeps getting more and more personal and clear that Dolores is bringing him towards what he needs to see for himself about himself. So it's very personal. These are the people that, did what they did to you. She doesn't even say, harmed you, or he just keeps saying, okay. There has to be at one point, in my opinion, of okay, you need to pitch me on this, and then I'll see if I'll go along, and then you'll prove it once we get there. But whatever, that's just that's my foible. That's what I'm sticking with. But what we did see as well is he asked her what type of revolution is she having, which was interesting. So again, there's a little bit of an issue there because he's willing to be very insightful and, really ask some deep diving philosophical questions about revolution and the ethical, fashion in which she's going, or lack of ethics in which she's going about this revolution. So it's that's a deep insight right there, but he doesn't ask anything about himself. But I thought it was obviously relevant because of what we see him do during the Russian Civil War and so forth, but I'll pass it off to you guys on that. I thought it was cool. It was a nice kickback. I believe Caleb's on the black horse, right?
It's a dark brown horse, I think, but yeah.
I'm colorblind. Thanks for bringing it up on air. Thank you so much.
Dolores was on a whitish horse, and Caleb's horse looked to be dark brown to me, but it may have been considered black. I don't know how that goes with horses.
They're definitely trying to convey, the whole,
there was a light horse and a dark horse.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, no, somebody's getting fired if they watch this. You told me it was a black horse. So, I'll go to you first on this one, Brett. Thoughts about the approach to the Insight facility?
Well, Dolores said this is where they designed Westworld from, or something like that. Now, was she saying that literally? Because if she was, it's interesting that almost implies there's a relationship between Serac and Ford.
Yeah.
If Serac took a piece of land to build his secret facility on, and it happens to be the same plot of land that Ford used to design Westworld. But that's probably nothing. I just thought that was...
A desert does lend itself to secret bases. I
assume that's what she was talking about, is just the desert terrain there.
I want to get your take on this when you, because you just brought this to mind for me. She says, she seemingly wants to have a Westworld back, but not in the way it was, but like even from the terrain, the aesthetic. And that's very interesting to me, because we would think, why would you want to go back to such a horrible, place that all these terrible things happen to you? But it also brings up, like, that's still home for her. That's what she knows, so like I found that and she did show a large degree of emotion, like tears in her eyes when she was talking about like what she was doing. And I really felt like a lot of, compassion and empathy for her in this moment, even though I'm still like, you are literally like walking a dog on its leash, with Caleb. But I thought it was very well done. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no,
yeah, go ahead, Brett.
No, that was it. I didn't really have much to add there.
Well, I was hoping you were going to tell the whole damn show to me and I would understand it all. So, all right. Brett failed me. No, I'm joking. Jenny, any thoughts about their approach to this? Not just, their actual approach, but how they, Caleb stands by and watches her kill all of these guards and takes part in it. He cites them for her, right?
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting. I mean, she talked about how beautiful it was, and I think that she definitely was reminiscing. Brings to mind that whole "Have you ever seen a world so full of splendor?" line that she said so many times last season. She didn't say that, but when she was talking about how, I lived in hell, but there was beauty in it and things like that. But I mean, he does seem to be going along. I mean, he did ask some questions. Neither of them went very deep. I mean, she just kind of said what she said. I did what I had to do to survive. She never really answered his question about what type of revolution she wanted to have, other than to say, I want a place for my kind and for all of us to be free. That's like politic-speak,
What type of answer from somebody that is a revolutionary leader? And we'll get to maybe Caleb, how he's being prompted up. Like, what type of answer do you expect? Even if you asked Adolf Hitler what type of revolution, he would say a righteous one. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to be like an evil one and twist their mustache. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it was an interesting notion. It just made me think about, because everybody's one man's revolution is another's genocide and so forth and stuff like that.
She did answer him straightforwardly when he asked how many more people were going to die. She told him that she did not know. But then when she said, my kind is all but extinct thanks to Sirach, I was like, well, you played a part in that too, Dolores. But then she says, but people still have a chance. They'll need someone to lead them, meaning, she wants Caleb to be the leader.
Yeah, so much is Caleb centric, and Caleb seems to be like, okay, like this all applies to him. Like he is being led.
It's like, well, I'm just a construction worker, and she's like, well, I was just a simple rancher's daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
I think she did choose Caleb for this mission, and that's probably part of the reason why is that his personality kind of lends to being told what to do.
Aaron Paul is the perfect follower in all stories. He plays it so well. Mr. White, what do you want me to do? Dolores, what do you want me to do? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
well, he was the 1 in 10 outlier that made it through the reconditioning.
He was. He was. So yeah, this again leads to this chess master story structure, which is very rarely done well, in my opinion. Season 1 is a good example of it done perfectly, so I'm hoping it's going to play out. So we see them infiltrate the facility. Evidently they're bulletproof vests for like, I guess, guns that like what 9mm. I don't know. She brought a gun that could get through them, so they all did have vests on, so they tried their best. So this is an older facility, and this is a facility that has the Solomon build, which is a little perplexing to me. Because why'd you keep that around? And we'll talk about that. I'm going with the whole, it is the embodiment of his brother. Not it's actually his brother, who I cannot pronounce the name of at the moment.
Jean-Mi.
Is it Jean-Mi? I thought it was
Jean-Mi.
Oh, okay.
Jean, like Jean, the French pronunciation, and then me, M-I.
I was
Jean-Mi.
Jean-Mi. I was thinking
Yes.
of Sirach's first name. I'm sorry.
Oh, Engerond. Engerond, I think it is.
Yeah, see, that was, yeah. Okay, so
I just call him Sirach because
That's
it's
why I
way
remember that.
easier than Engerond.
yeah, yeah. You get it. Also, it's a great name for a vodka. But yeah. But John Me is like the embodiment of. I've had a lot of people in the after show. They asked, like, do you think that's? I get it. It's metaphorically, in my opinion, that, but it's like, I don't know. Did they cut him up and spray him all over the machine? Is it him living? It's like, it is what it is.
Special,
Yeah.
Well, I think
special lockbox.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brad.
I think, well, one theory for why they kept, well, first of all, I think it's hard to destroy one of your creations, especially one that's so complex. So it would have been a difficult thing to destroy it. But also, I think its job is to look over these outliers that we learn that are in these little frozen pods.
Cold
And that-
storage.
Yeah, and I think they also, it still like gets the information that's like being fed into Rehoboam, but it isn't
Mhm.
it isn't allowed to take action on it because
Yes.
he knew what was going on.
It was demoted.
Yeah.
But it did have to catch up. Solomon, I believe, did have to like take a moment to do some quantum computing and catch up and adjust his parameters or something like that. I get it. It's the embracement of something that you helped create. It's hard to destroy it, even if it is it's
An insane AI as
well, and that's interesting that it does share a lot of the characteristics of his brother, and that's an interesting thought because
of its maker.
Yes, the machine is psychologically, suffering from the same psychological, afflictions in which the creator had. So like there is credence to, is it his brother? But it's like, is our creation the embodiment of us? Especially when you're making a self-learning machine. But we get in there and we see a hologram of Sirach, and this is going to bring up so many people saying that he's been dead, and I'll say that this gives you a reason that's not complete nonsense to say that, but I believe that message was meant for John, in that it's not at all proving that this guy is dead. It's just, this is like something that is supposed to greet you, you know what I mean? And it was just,
well, it was to greet Jean if he made it out, like
yes.
if he yeah
Or when he makes it out.
right.
Yeah, don't be so pessimistic. Damn, nihilist. Yeah, look at us. Yeah. No, don't be doing that. Yeah, he's not making it out.
So one of the things that that Engerond said to Caleb, to Jean-Mi, was, he said their experiment worked. Rehoboam saw in you and others like you, the outliers, a fatal flaw that would have bent the world on its axis. It needed time and the right set of genetic information to restore you. And my question there is Caleb the right set of genetic information?
Yeah. And when did Caleb become, because let's kick it back a moment, because we do have the at least the effort by Dolores to be like, yo, brother, we just the same. And he's like, he clapped back with like, you ain't nothing like me. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Solomon.
You're a Delos build.
Yeah. He's like, you simple. Yeah. You basic. But
I like that he calls her by her thing. It's like block 6-1 alpha. I forget. It was funny.
He objectifies
block 6 alpha 1 or something like that.
Yeah, we all think that like racism and like like sexism and any type of objectification or like the creation of others is still present within these machines. They still hate. They still have that fatal flaw that we as humans have because he's like, I'm not like you. So she's like, fine, fair enough. But there is that interesting question of, is she mimicking human behavior? You know what I mean? Which if you want to read that book behind me, they go into great detail about, but it is a failed, connection, at least at a base level between them. But then finally, Caleb, not even really asking too many questions, but gets finally read in to what he's been a part of the whole season. Right, like read into his past to find out who he is, and we get this information like you were talking about that Solomon is providing and saying he's the right mix and he's the right genetic mix. He made it out of the system. It's a very low percentile that does. My question to you guys is, when did Caleb become an outlier? specifically?
Go ahead, Brett.
It's kind of a hard question because I don't know the answer. I'm saying,
Well, I think he was an outlier from the get-go. I think that's why he
Mhm.
was sent to war, and that's when, after he came back from war, is when they started reconditioning him.
Yeah, I don't think he became one. I think he was born one, or has always been one.
Hmm.
see, I got to disagree with that because it seems like he went to war and then they had him work for them, and then once he started asking questions, then he became an outlier and they gave him the re-education.
Well,
So
they said before, Sirach said in one of the previous episodes that what they did with the outliers was they did things like send them to war to basically kill them.
yeah,
So that they're like being useful for a time and then they die and it's no big deal because they would have caused problems in the end anyway. And so when he didn't die in the war, but he was just injured, when they brought him back, I think they put him in that AR whatever.
augmented reality. Yeah, no,
Yes.
that's a valid point. So I guess the thesis would be that they wait for them to just be not useful for them, whether
Right. To
if they
see
don't,
if
yeah,
to see if they survive.
yeah, and then they're like, oh fuck, all right, we'll take care of this. So yeah, okay, so that I think that's a fair point right there. That because there is that question of, are people born a certain way, and are you a nature versus nurture type of deal, that I think is a dialogue here. Go ahead.
Jenny, so why are you asking this question? Is Caleb the right set of genetic information? Do
I'm
you have a
wondering
theory?
if it's the right. I don't have a theory like you have theories, but I did wonder if he was the right set of genetic information that that Jean-Mi needs to be able to break free and come out of Solomon.
And
Okay.
that's why I pushed on the when did he become an outlier, because that brings up to me, like that you're born a certain way, with this genetic, because they speak highly to like his biological self, right? Not just his psychological. So like that's the question that it brought up for me. Go ahead, Brett.
I mean, so do you believe that he might be Sirach's brother, like Caleb?
No, I don't think he's Sirach's brother. I was wondering if maybe whatever is in his genetic code is what Jean-Mi needs to be able to, because I think that he was the body that was in the cold storage case that was standing upright in the front there. Yeah, because like all the other ones were like laying flat. They were laying flat and you could see them under that walkway they were on. But there was the one right there, and I think that was Jean-Mi.
Well, I was just say my interpretation was that he was talking about the Westworld guest data when he's talking about,
And that very well may be. I just
to restore you. So I'm
just
thinking
tried
that
to
he
throw
needs,
something weird in there.
sure,
It's Westworld.
yeah, because that's that's totally. I think it's also a viable theory that he may still be Sirach's brother, and that he was put into a new body.
Well, I
But,
say to you, sir, on that I say that if it's the right genetic information, that it would argue more so that he is definitely not, because if that is the case, because then they're going to merge them. It would be the plan, right? So if it was his brother, then that wouldn't make sense because he has something his brother wouldn't have. I'm not saying I believe that theory, so I'm just gonna throw that.
yeah, I don't believe it either. I thought it was interesting. I believe he's referring. I think Sirach's plan is to get this guest data from Westworld, which is the human code on music sheets is how they were shown to us. Basically, a person's
Player piano sheets.
yeah, a person's genetic code, and if he uploads that into the system that is controlling the outliers, then perhaps he can fix the what's the word? Restore the outliers, or control
That
them
makes
and make
sense.
them a predictable members of society.
Does that
That
make
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's like kind of a righteous cause if you forget that like he put him in a bunch of like isolation pod chambers.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's like, oh, he wants to help them, but it's like, but he decided they needed the help, so it's like, okay, because for a minute there I was like, oh man, that's really righteous, and I was like, oh no, it's not.
But the guest data from Westworld was definitely outlier type information because those people had those violent delights.
What?
They have those violent
Tendencies, yeah.
urges and things like that. And so being able to get the data on all those people and put it into the whatever you call that,
Into the
server,
yeah,
whatever,
into the server to set parameters.
So that it could look at more. That would help.
I'm gonna fight hard on this one. We had on Jason Schenkel, and he was one of the creators of The Sims. He was on the after show from the Nightercast. Shout out, great guy. And we were talking about this because I questioned before this, and I was happy to get a little bit of confirmation from somebody that's actually dealt with simulating things. That data, I know as a plot device for the show, is something Sirac needs, but by no means would you know what an outlier is by having rich people who are, it's prefaced with, you can do whatever you want. That information falls now within the story, like within the context of the story. Like, I agree, that's what he says he needs, that's what he needs, that's fine, but by no logical means, and there's no substance to that whatsoever, because like that is not an outlier. That is really more so than normal people do. They're just able to act out these things, what they believe, without
But do you think that normal people, even if even normal rich people or whatever, are naturally going to just go be violent if they didn't have those violent tendencies within themselves? Because I can't imagine myself, if I were rich or wealthy or whatever, wanting to, like, I might want to go in there and have sex with a bunch of, like, that would be cool, but like I wouldn't want to go in there and kill people because that's not who I am. So I think that it still might give them some outlier data. It just wouldn't give you a true representative, what's the word I'm looking for? Accommodating data that you would get from all the population.
And because I've had this to this debate to an extreme, I find it just egregious, and you lose your humanity once you start doing those things within the park by treating things without ethical treatment, without any sense of humanity. You lose your own. But we do have to look at it's prefaced and it's normalized. You know what I mean? So my argument is they're doing something that is condoned within society. If he's trying to look for outlier, I don't think it's ethical by any means, but since it's condoned and it's normalized and it's almost, they look at it like it's playing a video game when it is not. It is not. I am so... I'm the voice of that. I fight it every single time. I'm just arguing that you will get that data from people that act as outliers within society. They're going with what society told them was okay to do in the park, so it would not identify outliers.
What were you going to say, Brett?
They're also looking at their brain. So I think they can they're looking at their activity, but they're also looking at what's going on in their brain when they're doing an activity. So in theory, they could differentiate between people that are just having a little fun and people that are like really effed up.
Yeah.
So I'm just rolling with that assumption that the data is so detailed in Westworld that they can actually figure out the difference between the people that are killing people just because, hey, it's a theme park, and then the people that really love and need to kill people. So.
No, absolutely. Like, because, it is pitched to us in the story, and there's no doubt that Westworld seems to have, they've even spoken to this effect that they have the technology. It seems like there's iPhones, and then there's just like the old Nokia phone in this world. It seems nobody else has like which is like really unrealistic for technology. There's usually like at least a Windows phone or something, there's Delos, and then there's, I don't know, like there's probably some hack park in Florida that's like got a bunch of like what was his name, Bill, woman in the white shoes, Bill, walking around like some Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. So yeah, I agree that it's a deeper look and a better brain scan. It's just it's hard to say who the outliers in society are if you are observing them within a societal norm. Even if it is vindictive and awful and just atrocious acts. But I think that's a cool conversation to have and a cool thought to have and so forth. But for all intents and purposes, the context of the story, yeah, you guys are right. That is the information they need. It's been explicitly stated.
And I think the outliers could be just the definition could be like unpredictable people. I don't know if it's necessarily criminals. It could just be people that Rehoboam, for whatever reason, can't really predict what they're going to do.
Yeah, which is, again, man, because the pedophile is still walking around. What is his plan? Like, what is, like, because it's like to predict what's happening and then watch the world burn and then just sit back with a fiddle. Nero didn't do that, by the way. But and watch it burn is one thing, but it's like he had this traumatic event that changed him drastically from Paris. So it's like, what is his end game here? Like, I don't get it. Is it just to be like, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen. 9/11 happens. Like, knew it was going to happen. Holocaust happens. Oh, I knew that was going to, it's like, could you do something? Could you do something about it?
Yeah, I think he's probably drunk on power, and it's like the world is whatever he wants it to be at any given time. He can justify killing people. He can justify almost anything. So I think Sirach really is like the all-powerful villain here.
Yeah.
The Solomon tries to well, I don't know that he's really necessarily, I'm humanizing him, or what's the word, anthropomorph, whatever. And he says that the people in the cryo tanks, or whatever they are, the pods, says that they're better off that way. At least they're not dead. And Caleb says that it's worse because they're not allowed to live or to die. And Solomon goes on, and he's, oh, this is such an awesome program. That until that program, all the projections had the world caving in on itself. And by removing the outliers, they weren't able to reproduce, which I beg to differ on that point, because I don't know. They said that he and his friend, Francis, were both basically outliers that they sent to war. And when Francis came back, he was allowed to reproduce.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. You pointed out something that I'm going to bring into my theory later, Jenny.
Oh, yay!
So I think that's a clue.
Yeah, because he had a son that was sick, because Caleb asked about his boy or whatever, and he says, "Little man, da 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 da." So yeah.
Wow. Oh, now my mind is going. So, no, okay. So we'll hold off on that little piece of candy. But no, that is interesting. And again, I was looking for differences in philosophical approaches and methodologies between Solomon and Rehoboam. I was like, so what the hell is the difference? And then I was like, oh, this one's just an unreliable predictor. Like, it's more off emotion. Solomon, it embodied too much of John Me. Personality, I guess. But Caleb does get a flashback. Let's get to Russia. Finally, everybody wants to be there. And we see him in warfare. We see him, dropping those. What is the correct vernacular for them?
Limbic pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, the hosts. So dropping those limbics during combat, which is, again, Aldous Huxley, Soma, all these, keeping your soldiers not asking questions is probably about the best thing you can do. This is explicitly stated through some dialogue we'll get to in a minute with, they said we can't talk to him. It makes sense. You don't want to talk to the person that you're going to kill. Mr. Rogers will tell you, if you knew everybody's story, you couldn't hate a person in this world. Well, I could still hate that pedophile they keep around. But anyways, so we see some interesting interaction. We see them, using technology that is able, it's the same glass technology, and it's able to see their psyche, their to a point. That's what I
thought. It was cool that they all had, there were 3 different guys that had them, and they all had different style of glasses, and every time we've seen them up to now, they were the same frames, and I was like, they do make them in different styles.
Well, you got to represent you. You got to be yourself, and you got to, you got to moisturize your situation.
But I also liked that those glasses, it gave you a readout and stuff, and the way that they've shown them to be, the goggles and the glasses, they haven't shown us inside of them, but they make it seem like it's replaying scenes, or altering the reality in front of your space, like it was with Jerry when Dolores met him in episode 1. But these were they gave them the information. It was having their little computer right there. I thought I liked those.
Yeah,
that was neat.
and that's technology that exists to some extent, but
Right.
it must imply some sort of implant that is non-biological to some extent. I'm not going to get all into the tech. It's Westworld. How do the guns work?
What was the
don't know.
deal with the things on their back, like the handprint and the X? And like, I knew that had to mean something, but did you guys catch what that was meaning?
Well, since the beginning of time, Jenny, primordial. I don't. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I think maybe they were pre-marked at a previous time, and they were just confirming that these were the guys that were marked.
Because the ones with the hand were the ones they were trying to target, but the guy with the X was when Caleb realized that they themselves were being targeted. So
I didn't pick up. I picked up on the I took it as because you can during warfare they can laze people. They scope him and laze them. So then the other people looking through their scopes, are able to, solve America's problems. But
the guy with the X, Caleb saw that and it freaked him out. And that's when he said he realized they were being targeted or whatever. And he made the guy take the jacket off, threw the jacket, had the guy run. But then the strike still came.
Pretty stupid on their part to have that if he's aware of the markings. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm not positive that the two guys that were marked before. I know the one had the hand. I can't remember for sure if the first one did. I know the second one did. But then the third guy we saw that he had an X, and that was the guy that was meant that Caleb was being targeted.
Yeah. What I took note of is that they did act out of emotion after that. The insurgent attack. So it seemed to me that they took White Man or Whitman, for the first time for emotional reasons. He tried to kill.
But that couldn't have really been him, right? Because it was in Russia, and I think it was someone else, but he was transposing that memory of taking Mr. Pharmaceutical Man Whitman into that memory from Russia.
Yeah, it is because of his re-education. I should have prefaced it with that whoever it was, it was that's a thank you, because people are gonna be in the comments saying wasn't him. No, those are what those events happened.
But they made it seem that way. I mean, yeah.
It just
that was what we saw.
It depicts what that re-education is capable of doing, which is creating false memories, which is Westworld. Yay, more confusing. But no, it is interesting. So yeah, they take somebody in that is played by the same actor, but they're taking him in because it's not rightfully so, but I can sympathize with that. Somebody tries to kill me, I tend to get a little perturbed. But the whole time it's again, they said not to speak to him, and I think that again is like Caleb's whole, not asking questions, not doing this, but he really wanted to ask questions before. It's like I want to talk to this guy, whoever it may be. I didn't know if you guys had thoughts on that.
That's interesting. And now he does not want to talk anymore. It's like burned into him that what happens when you talk, people die.
Yeah. And you might not like what you hear. Yeah, which is usually the case, unfortunately. So
right, and he that's what Whitman told him too. He's like, they're listening. That's why you weren't supposed to talk to me. So now your friend's getting a call to kill you because I think he has more to lose. And then, if he doesn't take it, you're going to get a call. And he was like dead on the nose. And it was like, because Rehoboam is listening, and you can't just do what you want to do. Everything is pre-programmed and preordained.
Isn't it weird that he still got the call? Like, if they are listening, don't you think they would have halted that call?
Well, he got the call when Francis, when he asked Francis how much, and Francis made some comment, and I don't think
enough.
I made a note of exactly.
It was like enough or something. It was not a good response.
I think he acted like, first he acted like he didn't know what he was talking about. And that's when Caleb's watch beeped.
Oh, okay. No, okay. Yeah. Oh, good.
And then Francis was like, enough, and got ready to fire.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. Them watching, they see, this might not go down.
Exactly.
Let's go now, because that actually does confirm it, as well. So, that's That's very interesting, because at first you would think they wanted to kill the person, so why confirm what he's saying? But then once they see that hit not going down,
And when Francis got the call, it was funny because, as I've mentioned before, I watched with the captions on my second time through. Caleb was talking to Whitman, and on the captions in parentheses it says cash register noise or something like that, which was, I had not actually heard the noise, but it was Francis getting the call.
And that noise was made through the Rico app. Earlier
it was Francis getting the call from Rico.
I wish my phone did that, but my phone would always just say wah wah wah, credit card debt. We see this, and then Francis says something on the lines of like, enough, like how much do they pay you? He's like, enough. I'm like, well, please give me a number, because that's gonna like really, like, if you were to kill me,
I
like,
need
I'd
to
want
know how much enough is to kill your best friend.
I could give numbers for everybody I know. Honestly, I could. You know what I mean? If I had to. Like, I'm not saying I want to, but I can price it. Like, and I think it's fair. You know what I mean? Like, and it shows how much people mean. I think it's a nice sentiment. But yeah, Brett, any thoughts on this altercation up to the point of, the final revelation that Caleb does shoot Kid Cudi Francis day and night?
I thought it was strange that you eliminate one of the two of them, but the other one is still alive to know the secrets. But I guess it's easier to keep one person quiet than two people. So that's reason enough.
What's the adage? The only way to keep a secret between three people is to kill the other two.
And then whoever survives, you stick them back in the re-education clinic. And
okay. Well, that makes it. Now I understand. Thank you, sir. No, I'm with it again. I'm back on board with Sirach. So sorry about that.
But it is right back to the why I feel like they drugged this out a little too much.
That is, and let's jump into that, because they drug it out quite a bit. And how much did we learn, guys, about Caleb that we didn't pretty much already assume? I'd say 20% more information was given to me about Caleb.
Right. Like, we got confirmation that he killed Francis, which many people were speculating was the case anyway. But really, other than showing us a little more background to that scene and how it came about and why he definitely had to be re-educated, because, the pharmaceutical guy had told him too much. Yeah. I mean, Caleb had already been there. At least that's what the pharmaceutical guy said. He's like that, talking about the limbics. I represent the pharmaceutical factory that manufactures that little piece of shit and bliss that your body just ingested.
Paxil. What does it do? We don't know. Tell us, please. Yeah.
Just because I asked one too many questions. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that we got a whole lot more information, and the repetitive nature of it made it more confusing than it needed to be.
It parsed it out, but because I want to give this over to you, Brett, because of what you said about leaving one person and how problematic that is. A very direct example of that with the pharmaceutical rep, right?
Yeah. Was he supposed? Did he die too? The pharmaceutical rep?
I don't think I'm the right person.
Yeah, Caleb shot him.
Yeah, Caleb shot him dead.
He shot him after he shot Francis.
Okay.
And he shot him twice in the chest, so the odds are that he did not survive that.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to be able to cure anything these days, but evidently not. Like everything else, cancer, all these things keep killing people. What was that like?
Well, I mean, it also would matter as to when you got medical care. I mean, if somebody shoots you twice and just leaves you there, you're going to die because you're going to bleed out if nothing else.
Well, I can pull myself up from the bootstraps, which is technically impossible, and I can get myself to that hospital, all right? No, I'm joking. Go ahead, Brett, sorry.
Well, the EMTs certainly aren't going to help you.
Well, the computers are working, they will.
I do agree with y'all in general that they did drag it out. I think it was more of a storytelling alignment that they wanted Caleb himself to realize at the end of the episode exactly what he did, because they needed that to align with what was happening with Solomon and Dolores and everything. So I do agree with y'all. They could have perhaps done that a little better.
If they, because they parse it out, and that's like the structuring of it, the plotting out of this. If we think about, because we were just kind of, I think we're all on the same page with, it wasn't that much information. So if it's just given to him straightforward in one little like spiel by Solomon, it would seem even less impactful, because it's just fairly known in our foreshadowed information. Also, like you said, this needs to coincide with what's happening on the other threads, with the Man in Black, his situation, which we're about to jump into, with Maeve coming for Dolores. So they need to parse it out for many different reasons. If I had this story in front of me and they put me in charge of plotting it out for the episode, I would have been like, can I have a rewrite? But if I couldn't get that, then I would plot it the same way. Because think about all this information just in one dish. You know what I mean?
I do think it's important that Caleb is not, they fucked with his memory so bad that he's trying to piece together his memories, not unlike Bernard was last season. So I think they wanted to draw a parallel where he's
This
fighting
season
and
has
struggling.
been a lot of parallel drawing.
And it's taking him a long time before he can finally put all the puzzle pieces together.
And he doesn't.
And honestly, I didn't hate it or anything. I just felt like they could have made it a little more concise than what it was.
Yeah, I didn't hate it either. I just worry for what we're going to have conclude this particular season, because they have shown to be consistent in each season standing alone. Of course, it connects for the overarching themes and story points, but they're kind of, self-contained in the sense of we should get an answer to what's happening with Rehoboam, Caleb, and all this by the end. They got a lot of work to do, but also to as far it can kind of be a parallel to with the bouncing off the center of the maze and glitching out, that it kind of has to be parsed out to him, so he doesn't go insane. But it doesn't, I mean, they didn't mean like through in 15 20 minutes. He's like, I can't tell him in 2, I'll tell him in 20. It's plot convenience, but it makes sense at the same time. Also, let's talk about others, having some information laid down for him. The Man in Black, William, Bernard, and the ever so very necessary character of this season, Stubbs, who is needed. I can't stress that enough. Oh my God, thank God he's there. Are talking to William. The first thing they tell him is that this says you're dead. I'm surprised that I haven't seen more people, coming out with he's for sure.
I haven't heard anyone talking about that either.
I know I shouldn't even have brought it up because I think it's been pretty.
I have it
clear.
in my notes.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that because then they state that Rehoboam makes people seemingly disappear, and this is one of the methods.
And Solomon did that too.
Yeah.
So that's not even just Rehoboam.
Doesn't matter though in this fandom. If you said anything, if there's a line of dialogue, they will build a fucking coliseum out of it.
How fast does that system work? Because he was just put into the re-education clinic, and then like a few days later, he's already declared dead across all databases or something like.
I'm assuming it's probably been at least a week or two.
Yeah,
right.
It's Westworld. It could have been 10 years. They're wearing the same clothes, but fashion does work in a cyclic way. But yeah, we see him have this revelation that doesn't seem to faze him either. Like, I thought he was going to be like, oh my God, because we do know he eventually does die and become a host. So I was like, this could be the reveal of that, and that'd be fine. But it seems to be more of a cloaking system. We do have the information given to us that he is sharing that same ID number, that same identification number with Caleb. I'm going to give this to you first, Brett. What are you taking from that? And do we have any nice Brett candy coming for us?
Do you just mean the U? Or did they have the same number after the U?
The U is a different identification. I can look it up right now. The number is a direct connection to they are cloaking one of them, and I'm pretty sure it's Caleb, because Caleb doesn't show up on the cams when Rehoboam's looking, and so forth.
Interesting. Yeah, I have some thoughts that could explain this away. Basically, I'm thinking that the simple version is that Dolores planted that information for Stubbs to find, and it's not necessarily legitimately Caleb's ID number.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of ties into my bigger theory that I'm going to get later. But
Okay.
I think that's just kind of not totally accurate ID number on Caleb's profile there.
Got you. Do any of you guys think that? And I don't want to. I haven't seen the theory yet, but I'm not of the mind that this means they are the same person. I'm of the mind of they are. There is
the same person.
There's a juxtaposition here with the Man in Black and his motivation at the end of this in Caleb. Caleb's going to destroy Man. Man in Black is going to destroy Host. So they both have the same objective,
right? And the Man in Black also says he's going to save humankind or whatever.
Yeah, it's very grandiose, delusional.
Yeah, it's very.
Well, I looked at that as they tell you if if ever had the pleasure of going to any type of Alcoholic Anonymous or Narcotic Anonymous meeting, and it's a very applicable life lesson and advantageous one to control what you can control. So he says he cannot change that he killed his daughter, which it's not a great way to start off all of your foibles. Like, well, I killed my daughter, can't do anything about that. Usually it's like I lost my job or something. But the one thing he can control, he says, is what he did in the park and how he helped create them. I have an inkling that he's going to come down to that he has to take responsibility. It comes down to this deterministic view versus free will. He decided to do those things in the park for whatever motivation. It wasn't forced upon him, and I think he will have a crisis of conscience halfway through this and not try to go through it all, because that's his redemption right there, is realizing everything. This is the one thing that's available for him to control, so he's going balls out on it. Like, he's like, I guess I'll kill them all. And luckily there's only I don't know what right now, 9. Yeah. So if you've ever got a chance
maybe
to do it,
handfuls.
Yeah, I guess this is a time that you do it. And the other thing on the ID number is Stubbs, seemingly, as I joke, just has a contract to be in season 3, so that they're like, fuck, we'll put him in season 3. We have to. But also there is a second mole. This could be his working. He was doing shady stuff in the background. Meaning he was looking over his shoulder and messing with the computer a lot, which Stubbs, I don't know what he's doing on the computer unless he's looking for Minecraft or something, or something even more simpler. But yeah, it seems like there's a little bit of an implication that Stubbs could be working with Sirach. I don't know.
Or
you could be right.
Because remember when we found him, he had tried to kill himself. So he was suicidal. So he could have, regretted, being a double agent like that.
Ooh, how noble of him. The Bushido way. Yeah, and he got into insight,
or maybe those were the memories that were programmed in him, and Sirach had it appear that he had tried to kill himself because he was the mole. And that would make sense with Stubbs saying, oh, let me look. And, this is what I did back in the park. And so then he, as has been brought up previously, I believe, suddenly, quickly just comes up with Caleb's information, which, he didn't make it sound like, in my opinion, that was the first one that he came across. It was just that was the one that he thought was the important one. But of course, if he were a Sirach's mole, he would recognize that Caleb was part of the problem.
I just don't see, other than a big twist with Bernard, honestly, which makes I'm not saying that makes sense. I'm just saying that there's really only, I only see one candidate at this point that's in this story to be the second mole. You could say that the Man in Black, but the Man in Black, yeah, he did used to work with him. But you know what I mean? He sold him information. He wasn't in league with him. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I just think it's pretty much Stubbs. There's a lot of characters in this season that literally seemingly have one thing that they're meant to do, and all of this is going to make sense once they do it. And that would explain something for Stubbs. Right, I
had thought that maybe it was one of the guys that worked for Charlotte previously, but the guy that I had thought that it was the guy that his Sirach's guys came up and shot right outside the headquarters that day. So that was who I thought it might have been previously, but now that we're down to this, if it wasn't that guy, which I don't think it was
Because we don't know his
necessarily anymore.
name. The fact we're calling him
Well,
that guy.
I had his name.
Nobody does so, but you take extensive notes and you don't know his name, Jenny. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't remember his name now. Brompton. Look, see, Brett remembered because I said it before.
High concept.
And actually, Sirach did say Brompton's name, I believe, at one point too, or maybe Charlotte did, or maybe both of them did. But regardless, that was who I had thought it might be before.
Yeah. I don't think they would want to count on the audience remembering Brompton.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because again,
well,
you guys are super insightful. Okay.
The interactions that he had with Charlotte. When he brought her the thing, trying to help her to remember the key with the "You Are My Sunshine" thing, he like brought that into her unprompted. Like, I think you need to watch this. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of what made me think that he might be a mole, because he was like helping her to get to where Sirach needed her to be.
Oh, and that's a valid point. And if that trend would have continued, you know, and if he wouldn't have been shot or killed or whatever, but no, very, very, again, a very good example of very smart insight in catching on things. But it's like, you know, the high concept thing is they're going to be like, it's Frank from sanitary. It's from sanitation. They're like, oh, Frank, we saw him. He was one of the extras in the back. I'm like, oh. All right, there he is. But go ahead, Brett.
Who's the guy with the big schlong in the cold room?
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course you remember him. I do too. I was like, damn it. Stop.
I don't have it. Yeah, I don't have a strong theory, but it does make sense. It would have to be someone who had access to cold storage if they were responsible for taking Maeve's pearl and perhaps others. So it makes sense that it would be Stubbs.
Is there any validity behind Bernard? I was saying it like kind of half joking, but you know, there could be I know, but I'm not posing it. I'm going to get killed in the comments for it. But
honestly, I don't see any way that it could be.
I see Bernard as being corrupted because of how Dolores built him, but I don't see there being like a double-sided corruption there. That would be a little, not any information that I've seen so far would indicate that.
Yeah, it's just he doesn't agree with Dolores, you know, the way she's going about things, and I don't really understand. Like,
but he knows he's working for her now. He knows he's like doing her bidding.
I know. It's just what Bernard's role is, again, seems like a referee for this whole thing. So it's like, you know, like he has not posed his own like solution to this other than I'm gonna like try to keep it under control. He's just blowing a whistle, throwing yellow flags up. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it is. I think that it's got to be Stubbs, or it's Frank from sanitation, or the guy with the big schlong, unrealistic expectations. Thanks, Westworld. All right, well, let's move it from there. You know, when you start talking about schlongs, you've gone a little long. Hey, let's not let the conversation get flaccid. So what we're dealing with here is a lot of penis innuendo, but what we're also dealing with is this revelation that I'm gonna kill all hosts, and he says this to two hosts. My move is never, hey, I'm gonna kill.
God, that was so fucking stupid.
Yeah, and then Bernard, and then Stubbs like, hey, no, the fuck you are, and Bernard's like, hold up, we might need him. I'm like, and then he says again, you need to kill me now because I'm going to kill you. He's like, no, it's like, dude, kill him. And then what happens? Anybody?
Yeah,
I think you.
So far, all I can say, and I know you don't like it, is that he knows it's Dolores' plan to keep him alive, so he can't kill him.
Oh God, it's so it's this math. Everybody seems to know and make these illogical choices and decisions that don't make a semblance of sense, and then I hope it comes together in a way that's not contrived. Because I don't. What does Bernard know? What does he know, and what does Dolores know that she? I get Dolores's whole. And this is what we're going to jump into with Maeve coming during Caleb's, you know, re-education or whatever you want to call it. He goes, who's that? Who's your friend knocking on the door? And she's like, probably the one that's going to kill me. He's like, have a fun karate fight. But, you know, like, it's again, this foreseen future that leads them to these arbitrary, like, weird, like, you know, decisions.
Is it possible that when Dolores created Bernard, she put part of herself in him, just like she did with the other copies of herself?
I think that maybe. Oh, sorry.
No, maybe Bernard is actually part Dolores.
I think that's
That we've
true.
seen.
True on a on a level for both of them because of the way in which they create out of their own memories. That they are. I mean, I know it's a little like weak of an answer, and but I mean, if you create somebody out of your own memories, like inherently, I think that they would be a part of them in that sense, and that's a lot of the reason she can't get rid of him. Well, no, this is a different reason, probably because she knows she's going to die and needs to be brought back. But, overall.
Well, he definitely serves a purpose, but in the meantime, some of this stuff is very head scratching.
I get that, though, because what do we know that he can do that nobody else can? Rebuild Dolores, right? So that's sensible. That's not really all that illogical to me. It's like, that's kind of just like a safe thing in general, even if you don't plan on dying, like to keep around the one person that can bring you back. That's a smart move.
Well, I like that theory a lot. I was referring to the fact that I believe he has the encryption key in his head. Ooh. And that is why he's unique. But I do like your thought too, that he can rebuild Dolores.
It can be both too. I mean, because it is.
Yeah.
We know we can bring him back, but it could be a bigger reason because that would kind of be like a rinse and repeat thing on my part if that was the only reason. Because we've seen this last season, right? Of him bringing them bringing each other back. So it'd be like, oh, I kind of like that. So we're gonna get to Brett's theory corner here in a minute. I get giddy about it. They're good. So we are dealing with this re-education. We're seeing that Caleb is still, when he sees his past, we do see him still acting in some of the same ways as far as just being disassociated with everything. Even before the re-education, everything's the same, everything day and out, and he's living like a life of a hitman. So that's kind of like, I guess that can even get boring. But we see, I don't see a lot different about Caleb other than what he used to do opposed to what he does now. If that makes any sense. Like, what was drastically different about him before the re-education, other than he didn't remember killing?
Nothing that we know of. He was just a regular dude that was unpredictable, I guess, according to Rehoboam.
Yeah. Right. We didn't see enough of his behavior prior to when they decided he was too far gone to allow to continue in the regular world. So they needed to send him to the war.
His mom had a mental illness, and I never heard about his dad. So maybe his dad was out of the picture. So
he's getting cigarettes somewhere.
It could be that maybe the conditions he grew up in were not ideal, and that kind of drove him to unpredictability.
He does have a lot of money because Francis says to him, the money that we're making, he doesn't care about it. And after the fact, of course, when he has none and he's struggling in the beginning of this season, we see that, I'm not saying that he becomes like a money whore or a gold digger, but he values the fiscal aspect of things a lot more. But I don't really know if that's like the only contrast I see there, but that kind of just makes sense. It's like, because he didn't have money. So
well, and he needed the money when he was when he had turned his implant off and he wasn't living the hitman lifestyle anymore, because he wanted to pay to keep his mother in that facility and he needed the money. That's why he was doing the jobs from the Rico app still.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It makes sense that he was like,
right,
more
because his construction worker money wasn't enough to help him do what he needed to do for his mom.
Yeah, you think if they don't want him like asking questions and he's successfully re-educated, they would have made sure to keep him content. So that's a big flaw.
Right, but they knew he was going to commit suicide in 10 to 12 years or whatever. That was his projected path. So they didn't want to invest anything in him to help him to get into a good career, because who wants to invest in you if you're not going to be around in 10 years?
At a macro level, I'd say throwing a little bit of money his way with all the money in this world.
Just saying.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, throw the guy like about like, like whatever the equivalent to $80K a year is now. Then, you know what I mean? Like, it's not too much of a thing. It's not like, we just budgetary restraints right now just can't allow us to do it. But yes, within the story, you're right. I'm the one going out of context a lot here. There's a lot of questions. It's like, you couldn't give him a living wage. They're like, we couldn't.
No.
He went and destroyed all the IP. They said it's worth billions or whatever, millions of dollars.
Trillion. Half a trillion, or
Better part of
3/4 of a trillion was it's better part of a trillion.
You can't get the guy like.
I can't even like the zeros on that. Like,
I've never seen him. Other than my dad, I've never seen him. You know what I mean? So yeah, like that's like a plot. It's like, well, we just can't justify that, and it's like, you just threw away $1 trillion right there. So whatever. Everybody's got their reasons. Some of them are stupid. So we see him having his epiphany, which I don't know why I was so surprised. And we're gonna get into the karate fight here and then, that he comes out of that with he's going to kill all humans. I know that Dolores was propping him up for that, and it was pretty much just like leading him, just like Wyatt was led by Arnold, meaning Dolores, to go and do this original sin. This is a parallel with the story again of, it seems like to have this agency, to have this free will, you have to have this original sin, and you must, it's a neo-creationalism, I think. Don't quote me on it, that, like chaos is the only way in which you can have free will. You can either have like, some sort of paradise, or you can live in hell with decisions, essentially. So it seems to be the way they're going, like he's coerced by every meaning of that word, right? By every definition, he is coerced like crazy. It's like saying, hey, your dad was killed by this guy with somebody alone, like, with them telling him like calmly, and then saying, hey, there's that guy that killed your dad, here's a gun. It's very much so like a similar situation. But I'll pass it to you guys. I mean, I get the motives there, but I mean, it didn't seem to me that would be the clear conclusion to come to after this.
I don't know if we know what his motive is yet. I don't think he's planning on killing the human race. I think it will be a consequence, or at least Dolores believes it will be a consequence of whatever he believes he's trying to do.
What is the oh man, there's a specific line he says. I know it's not say kill all humans, but it implies stuff not good for humans. I know that.
You're talking about what Bernard said?
No, yeah. What Bernard said.
He said Dolores has a poetic, what was the word? Basically, she's not going to be the one to kill humanity. He is.
There it is. Yeah.
Something like that. So
I guess, okay, so that's rational then, because I didn't get how he was going to walk away from that situation being like, oh, I got to kill all humans. I'm like, why is that why would that be the solution there? But yeah, he again sees this, whatever is going to happen, and knows. So it's clear that she was using him as a tool. Any thoughts on that before we get into the awesome, I don't know any other weapon, but I guess a helicopter other than a sword fight with Maeve, which I totally stand up for and I think is awesome.
Mini drone.
I
just on the Caleb thing, I don't know. I mean, Dolores told Solomon to create this strategy, the final one, the one Jean-Mi asked you to make just before Sirach condemned him to this. And then when Caleb gets it from him after that, he tells now of course this is after the karate fight or whatever you were calling it. He had told him that the strategy was complete, but when Caleb had figured out that he had killed Francis and all of that stuff, he was literally raging and he started to walk away. But Solomon told him, if you deviate from this course, you'll not achieve the desired outcome. And that's when he says her new strategy for revolution is ready. And then Caleb tells Solomon that he wants to know how to kill its creator. He says, our time is short. I'll not be able to instruct you on all the outcomes of that variant. And then Caleb tells him to just tell him how it'll end. And then shortly after that, he says, your request is complete. Take the drive. So I think that is where it's going to wind up being the end of all humanity or whatever.
The attempt at it. Oh, that is the wizard trope. They always say, hey, I didn't teach you everything. I'm like, you had so much time. So much time. Please teach them right away. If you ever have a wizard come up to her, or Yoda, or a blood raven, like when they say they got shit to teach you, say, we're going to sit down starting tomorrow morning. We're going to learn it all because your ass is going to dissipate at some point. And your last word is always going to be like, but we didn't have enough time. You're not ready, but you must be ready now. I'm like, you bastard. You got drunk.
But I need to see my dad in the tower.
Yeah, it's like 6 months of you just passing out on the couch drunk, you freaking weirdo. Yeah, they never have enough time. I question that, but no. I also like that when Dolores leaves, when he says, if like you don't make it, I'll change like the parameters or whatever.
Yeah,
that's such a badass. I love Solomon.
She's like, whatever, do
Yeah.
what you gotta.
Yeah, she's like, I just wanted her to be like this. Like when she had her back turned, like, yeah, fuck off. It's pretty much like, hey, when you die, I'll just fix it all. It'll be fine. You'll be good. You know what I mean? Like it's just this whole thing. Like, you know, I think he's very much so. He has those human characteristics, but like he's also an ice cold fucking sociopath. Clearly, but it's a machine. So I guess it is what it is. Not all machines are sociopaths, Alexa. So Solomon's agenda and what Solomon is informing Caleb about, and his disregard for Dolores in general, doesn't seem to be a fan whatsoever. And we do see Maeve pop up wearing all black, harnessing a sword, and she has like a that it's like is it a drone chopper or not?
I think the captions called it like a quadcopter or something like that. I was like, okay, it must have been a drone because it was firing weapons for her.
Yeah, they both had artificial intelligence fighting. I think that there's definitely because it was highly focused on during the Civil War, the Russian Civil War scenes as well. I think that Joy and Nolan definitely are going to want to inject, even if it's just a little bit of meta commentary about, you know, the usage of these artificial machines in warfare and the disassociation and so forth. I mean, we won't get into. I think it was just a nod to it. But okay, so we start off. The fight ensues, and I'm going to say those drones were not like zeroed in that well whatsoever. I'll pass it to you, Brett. How'd you feel about this? What I'll say is like almost 80% badass, great fight, but 20% of it was a little questionable for me.
I thought it was pretty cool. I guess you could explain away the drones misfiring to the fact that there are also machines on the other side that are trying to avoid the bullets. So it's not necessarily a case of just locking in on a stupid human and shooting him. But all in all, I thought it was really awesome. I liked that each Maeve and Dolores both had their little, machine that was fighting for them. And yeah, the whole thing was choreographed very well.
Yeah, Evan Rachel Wood bragged about her Taekwondo belt in the post episode breakdown, so which is pretty cool. And Maeve, I think they held their own. They used very few stunt doubles. Thoughts on sword versus? Well, I guess no. Dolores had a knife, right?
Yes, Dolores had a knife. The first time that she went out from under the roof after she had noticed Maeve's AI, the first time she got thrown out from under that that building that they were fighting under, she was able to dodge the bullets. But the second time Maeve threw her out there was after Maeve had caused Dolores to stab herself with her knife.
Yeah.
And she threw her out there, and Dolores was distracted for a moment, pulling the knife from her own gut. And that's when she got her arm blown off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're like, arm shot completed. Hardest limb probably to hit, but it does make sense. She was, distracted for the minute. She, anytime when you get stabbed in the gut, you got to take a moment to address it. But I thought it was,
you would think.
Yeah, but the thing about like fight scenes is, first off, they're awesome. Second off, to tell a story through a fight, I think is something hard to do. And I think they told it here using the drones. And I think they, had this ideological, philosophical battle, through physical contest. And I thought that it was well done. It's kind of, a great example is the the Viper versus the Mountain, Oberyn versus the Mountain is a great one. They're telling a story during that, and it's very hard to do. It's not just action for action's sake. I thought it was a lot of fun, and this season has been a lot of fun and kept that depth to it. That plot armor is there, though. That's part of the problem when they want to show badass technology that should be like, very, very perfect and very, very precise. And then they're like, but also we need these characters, so let's not do it. But we have their showdown, and Dolores, we definitely see the reason why she's sitting in on what seemingly is a janitor's room, getting rebuilt for the final episode. Were you guys surprised that we'd got this far through the story without that happening? I predicted that would happen like very early in the season. Caleb's help for her, rebuilding and so forth.
Well,
I had
not really.
About that.
Yeah.
Because it's a connection. She's vulnerable, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. It's not that I was just like, I wanted the scene earlier. It's a vulnerability. So I saw that as an in for Caleb. He worked with a robot. It might be an in. So now she's definitely not in control at this point, and she needs to bring back. And it looks like what they're bringing back is the old style of bodies. And it's important to note that they did give us a lot of exposition on this throughout the last 2 seasons. Those weren't worse. They were actually better and harder to destroy and far more efficient. They added it to be more biological.
Yeah, they show that at the beginning. It's in the intro. They show that, and I actually put that together when I was watching it Sunday night. I didn't think about it as far as the scene where we've seen Dolores with her head, but like the robotic body, because we've seen that in the past. But I was like, why are they showing us that? And then I had looked up that scene with Ford and his brother, or I'm sorry, the Park Ford with his family in that cabin. And when he showed Bernard, he had his little, the young Robert, he told him to turn the other cheek, and then his face popped open like it does in the intro. I was like
Predator.
oh.
Yeah.
I had tried to remember what that phrase was the other night, and I couldn't remember it, and it just came into my head. He told him to turn the other cheek, and then he popped his face open.
Yeah, that's a very disturbing. We could do a whole podcast, well, at least I could, about how disturbing that situation is, that scenario with this family. But yeah, I already dived too deep into the philosophical, pseudo-philosophical enough this episode. But what is important to note, and I had a big argument in one of the first streams I did for Westworld this season, is people kept saying, why is she has to work off this old body? I go, guys, that body is more efficient. It's a better build. They did it for money. They made them more biological for money. It was easier to make them. They used to be better. It is not an inferior build. It's just a more costly build. You know what I mean? So this detaches her a little bit more too from humans. Not in a psychological sense, but in a biological sense for her physiology or whatever you want to call it. So I think it's interesting. Maeve walks around out of this one on top, seemingly. And now we have to wonder what's going to happen in the next episode. We'll do some short takes on it. But before we do that, I want to hear Brett's theories for this week. We only got one more episode, and I met you late in this game. Is all love happens. It happens too late. I want to get myself some Brett theory.
All right. Well, I got 2 main ones, and then I'm just going to revisit a third. But starting out with Maeve, I have a theory that Sirach actually merged himself onto Maeve's pearl, exactly how Ford merged himself onto Bernard's pearl last season. It seems that Sirach, based on that line that he said, that his hologram said, "I wish I could be there with you, Jean-Mi, but the man I was no longer exists," kind of implies that he may just be data now in the system. Then I remember that scene at the beginning of episode 6 that showed Maeve and Sirach in the virtual Eden. It was kind of an odd scene for me at the time, but thinking about it, I was basically what you were seeing was they were in a simulation together, each as a conscious data set, one original host, one former human. This reminded me of last season, Bernard and Ford in the Cradle. Very similarly, they were in a simulation together, two different conscious data sets, one original host, one former human. What happened there? Ford merges himself onto Bernard's Pearl, and at that point, at times, he could actually take over Bernard's behavior, like when he was machine gunning down the extraction team in the map room at the Mesa.
Mm-hmm.
So here, I believe the same thing happened. Serac merged himself onto Maeve's Pearl, and then took over her body when she was fighting Dolores.
Because it is true that the James Delos project has not been complete, but the only time that we have seen a person exist in some form other than these failed expeditions with James Delos is by them living in the non-material world, so through simulations like the Forge, and by combining themselves onto a pre-existing Pearl. So I actually kind of really like this because we have not seen the physical form of Serac, and this would make sense because they preface this can happen, and he is a Ford-esque character. I really like that, actually. I actually don't have a problem with that conclusion, and I love the methodology. I love all of it, actually, because I think that adds to it. I think that because Serac's a fool right now. We need something. I mean, else he's going to be Carl Strand, who's like, guess I wasn't. They sent like their 80th best guy.
And speaking of Serac being a fool, if he were smart, he would have made a copy of Maeve before he started messing with it. So I'm thinking he made a copy of her, and he probably made a copy of these other three hosts that he got to help Maeve. And I took it one step further. I don't think he would have brought in additional hosts to help Maeve unless he were in full control of those hosts as well. So I believe he probably merged himself onto Clementine's Pearl and Hanario's Pearl.
It's Hanamaro, okay?
Hanario.
Hanamaro Rex, all right?
In a sense, he pulled a Ford, and he pulled a Dolores by making multiple copies of himself.
Ooh, yeah, because again, a sensible person wouldn't create a chaotic situation in which he had no ability to stabilize. So, and again, they can merge, and this is taking us into this quantum, physics with the quantum computers and all that. This capability to exist in the non-material world, and I don't hate that, because why? Maeve, if he knows anything about Maeve, which he seems to know at least something about her, why would he think this is somebody that's just gonna do whatever I say? He's got to inject himself in there. And Jenny, can you name one smart thing that Serac's done? No, I'm serious. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but name one smart thing.
I mean, buying out Delos piecemeal.
That was pretty smart. You're right.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Sorry, I had to come up with something.
No, I know. I forced you. But okay, yeah.
It's a good one.
But really, other than that, though, I mean, and that was smart to do. But beyond that, he has not done one intelligent thing.
Yeah, we're talking about like a almost living God, like a Ford-esque technology, like Elon Musk.
Oh, he thinks he's God.
No, they all do, and that their hubris makes them falter. But at least like the other geniuses, like at least exhibited like intelligence far greater. Not just I knew how to buy out a company strategically and chip down on the stock. It's like no, but you're right. But that thank you, because that just shows right there that is it's like, well, he did good like in his interview at Arby's. You know what I mean? Like, which is nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's quite the feat. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But again, he
won The Apprentice.
Yeah, you won. You're the boss now of what? Not nothing. It's not a real company. It's just this chair. So yeah, no, yeah, but yeah, he did manage to acquire a company that was just after its second massacre, and it's Jeff Bezos was running around killing people during the aftermath of it. So he got that, and that is what he can pin his pride on right there. So I really actually like this, and we'll get to your next one, Brett, because he has to do something else other than this would have been posed as the guy that's like just he is adequate at acquiring properties. You know what I mean? Like that's like that would be like the characterization of him. He's a decently skilled financial man. Not supercomputer Rehoboam, biblical references, all that. None of that would be applied.
Yeah, it could be argued that his brother was the intellect behind building those systems anyway. So
I think it definitely is. And I still don't understand why he killed Dempsey. He's like, can't kill Dempsey. He's like, why? He's like, because I'm gonna have fun in cold storage. You said you had another one?
Yep. All right, so this theory is a two-parter.
Nice.
All right, so I have a theory that Caleb never left AR therapy. He's been in it the entire time.
You son of a bitch. I knew you were going to get me eventually.
It was strange how when Stubbs went looking for the list of successful members of the re-education program, that the only name he came up with was Caleb. And I believe that this profile was planted by Dolores for Stubbs to find, which means it's possible that the true efficacy rate for reconditioning outliers is 0% instead of 1 in 10, and all of the people in frozen pods are still experiencing their AR therapy, while Serac is just waiting to retrieve and implement this base programming data from Westworld that can supposedly fix them, and that Caleb is one of the people in these pods. So after Dolores discovered the secret location, Sonora, Mexico, last week, she went there, accessed Solomon, and selected Caleb as the person whose AR therapy she would infiltrate in order to recondition him into doing what she wants, which means this entire season of the Dolores Caleb story, at least, has been a simulated experience controlled by Dolores, generated by Solomon, and played out for Caleb that has only taken place in the past day or two of real time. After all, time is just a construct when you're in a simulation. So using Solomon, the end result of the therapy is that Caleb possesses the instructions for how to carry out the perfect strategy to achieve Dolores' goal as if it were his own plan. And I can even envision him emerging from the therapy saying, I know what I must do, just like William did.
So
that's part one.
That's the best one I've heard that I hate the most. So my thing is, she gets the same results this way, but also, in all fairness, I've been saying, what the hell? He doesn't ask any questions. He doesn't do this. It seems odd. But, a lot of times we mistake, it's one of the best shows on TV, but it's still sometimes there's bad writing. Like she's getting, you're pretty much proposing that she gets to where we're at right now, but through the augmented reality instead of the real world, which I think has got validity because it's not sensible what we see here either. But
I'm saying, people are plugged into Solomon, and she accessed Solomon and is using Solomon to basically implant what she's using the reconditioning therapy for her own good. So she's reconditioning him how she wants. Yeah,
because that would give her and there is that conflict between them, which would lead for a better reveal. I hate it, but I don't hate it so much.
This is when I want to tie in what Jenny mentioned earlier. I thought just one little thing that was weird was that how Francis talks about his kid being sick, but Outlayers don't have children. So
for Solomon, they don't.
This entire war story and the entire killing friend story just could all be made up.
Yeah.
Weird thing, I wonder, when was Solomon retired and Rehoboam brought in?
15 years ago, they said.
Yeah.
So Caleb was at that facility with Solomon reconditioning him 15 years ago. I mean, how old is he anyway?
Yeah, in the Russian Civil War was, I believe, 30 years ago. Somebody put down on the timeline, the time in which this Civil War is happening is the time, I believe, in which the Man in Black is first in the park.
Right. So, I mean, how old is Caleb supposed to be? Maybe 35?
72 by my calculation.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be really strange for him to have been there with Solomon when Solomon was active. So and clearly they're not still using that facility to re-educate people, but they're using it for cold storage.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I have questions.
So
I believe, I agree that that's weird.
okay, what I'm trying to figure out here, and man, because there's a lot that makes sense about that. So what have we seen in the real world that Caleb was a part of, that if we take it away from the real world, you get what I mean? If we go with the like what would deconstruct our story? Meaning what would be devastating?
Well, one thing I thought of is that that ball, the masquerade that they went to, Caleb was there, and Bernard and Stubbs were also there. But it could be that Dolores is using Bernard and Stubbs inside this simulation, because Bernard's just been a pawn, all season long anyway, it seems like.
And she brought him back for a logical. So yeah, that's hard to argue too, 'cause she said, "I need you."
And that could mean that they're obviously helping William right now. Well, it could be like what you said last week, that William is still also in his AR therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't actually woken up.
Don't pander to me with that. Yeah,
So,
my vanity.
I'm bringing it around. I might agree with you on that now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what can we take out of the real world interaction. How much do we see of Dolores in the real world without Caleb?
We see her with Liam at the party. We see her with Jerry getting all his money.
Yeah, I'm saying not all of that is
no, that's what I'm figuring out.
Yeah,
is because
right,
when you got Caleb, like in here.
I'm like trying to remember and then we see her with
the
Martin.
Yeah, the stuff with building her copies, I believe, is real. The Charlotte Hale stuff is real.
So when we separate her from Caleb in what we've seen in the real world, now also we see separate incidences of Bernard and Stubbs with William, specifically this episode, speaking about what Dolores is doing with Caleb when she's not with them. So I guess still, because would that put William in the simulation as well? I think that there's a lot less that I can come up with right now than I would think that would crack holes in that. But I see a few things that would crack holes because it's connected. Loosely, Caleb is connected almost with everything. Even if he's not there, he's loosely connected. But damn good. I mean, that is like
it's an out there theory, but I kind of liked it, and I have a part 2 which ties it all together.
Oh shit! You haven't got the part 2 yet. I'm sorry. I tried that.
I have not.
You should have said, "Shut up, Justin." I didn't even finish yet.
Well, no, I wanted you to try to poke holes in it first.
Well, no. Well, and again, guys, the reason I'm trying for everybody watching, I love these theories, but this is, it's not the kiss everybody's ass show. It's let's have fun and have different perspectives. So, and man, he's giving me trouble here. So this part 2 is not great. Uh-oh.
All right, so part 2. Okay, so part 1 is Caleb is actually still in AR treatment as we speak. Part 2. Serac acquired the guest data after his Delos takeover. So by taking over Delos, Serac ensured that he would obtain all the Delos property, including the secret base programming guest data that Westworld had to offer. So now that he has this data, he can implement it by coding it into the AR treatments that are currently in progress for thousands of outliers, converting them into controllable, predictable members of society. But what he doesn't realize is that when he releases these outliers back into society, one of them is programmed to take him out and take over the world.
Okay, now, so how would you pose that she picked Caleb?
She probably tapped into Solomon and figured out that this guy is very impressionable, maybe.
And it is, the one thing I really like about it is the added advantage of her having control of Solomon, right? to fight Rehoboam with Solomon, if I'm on track there. Yeah, to use the technology against.
Yeah. So
I like that aspect of it. I again, it doesn't completely strip away everything. It makes, a lot of it a little bit disconnected, but not enough to really ruin it. So, you know what? I'm going to say that out of all of them, that again, the methodology is strong. There's been everything you're talking about has been prefaced. There's a precedent set for it. You're not speaking of anything that we haven't seen happen before. Like as far as these actions and the abilities of these people to do the things. You're not like injecting a new skill set or anything like that. This is all within the context of the show, and that's and it's a fun a thing to think about, because I really like the idea of her using Solomon against Rehoboam. I really like that the most. So I think that people are gonna love it, Brett. I maybe I'd have more, but that's some pretty solid stuff. Jenny, anything to say on it? We're not looking to crush people here, and I can't.
No,
even if I wanted, I can't do it. Yeah.
Come on, Jenny.
Jenny.
Honestly, I'm like, well, that could be. I mean, it's feasible. I don't know. Like the first part, I don't know that I necessarily believe that he never left AR therapy, but the second part, possibly, at least the part about him getting the guest data and all that. And yeah, I mean, it's feasible. I'm not going to argue it because I have nothing to back myself up, but I don't necessarily think that he's still in the AR, but I think that is a feasible conclusion that you have backed up.
Well, it's not relying on shock is what I like about it.
Right.
The twist will be fun if that happens, but the reason that you're proposing this is to explain away, which is, where a lot of theories falter, some of the best ones, because what you are explaining away like plot holes, flaws in, the story here, minor ones. It's a good story, but there's some things that it's like, oh, the smartest guy in the world, not acting like that and so forth. So you're bringing in aspects that add to the story, don't destroy it. I'm gonna say, just because I have to stick with it, I don't think it's what's happening, but if that's what's happening, I pray to Rehoboam, I pray to Ford, I pray to any god there is, that's the way they do it, because at least it wasn't just like, guess what, wasn't real, guys. It's like, it wasn't real because I needed this control.
That would piss me the fuck off.
It'll piss off the people that want the theory after they get their transitory pleasure. You know what I mean? Their moment high, like they smoke some crack rock. They're like, yay, it's different. Oh, everything's meaningless. But this leaves this in a way that isn't meaningless. This gives us her control of another system. This leads us to the same path we're on actually with Caleb. Anyways, it just leaves it in a way that actually is arguably a little less contrived. And I hate to say it, a little less contrived, because the whole time he's just like, okay. She's like, this is important for you. He's like, okay. What type of revolution? She's like, this is the one question, you idiot. The good kind. He's like, okay. She's like, these are the people that did bad stuff to you. He's like, I guess they are. And then it's like, don't you want to find out, boy? He's like, if it's okay, if we have time. Yeah, so it's like, not a lot of that adds up, and this would be that's good, Brett. You might have just freaking converted me, brother. You might have just made me a believer.
You made him a believer in the simulation within a simulation within a simulation theory.
Oh, hypothetically, if.
Well, there's a little part 2 of the theory about Sirach being on Maeve's Pearl. Because I just thought it was really funny that William is like hell bent on killing hosts, like that's his new mission now. And it could be that Sirach is like in 3 or 4 host bodies right now. So it could be that Dolores wants William to have that realization in his AR treatment that he needs to go out and he needs to kill these 4 hosts or whatever that are actually Sirach. So that would be funny that if he's driven on that mission and Caleb is driven on his mission, but really they're just both Dolores' mission.
Yeah, because it would be killing the vassal, I mean.
Right.
Yeah. So again,
probably hosts anyway. Like I believe that there probably is.
What do you think? Then, go ahead.
I was just going to change to my one final theory, unless y'all had.
No, please just say shut up, Justin, and let me tell my theories. All right, I'm just gonna I'm gonna keep doing it. So,
and then one final theory, which is just revisiting a past theory. By activating the encryption key in Bernard's head, Dolores will replace Rehoboam's mirror world with the unlocked virtual Eden.
I don't remember us talking about this before, Brett.
Well,
how long ago was this?
I had the crazy theory about her like sending all humans into a virtual heaven. You remember that?
Vaguely.
That's kind of the same thing. But they keep talking about this virtual Eden, and she sent it somewhere, and there's an encryption key that I believe unlocks it, and I'm just waiting for this to happen. I think she sent it into Rehoboam.
I've been waiting for Bernard to have a purpose all fucking season.
She changed the coordinates the last second and sent it somewhere, so I believe that she sent it into Rehoboam, and she's going to use the encryption key in Bernard's head to unlock it, and there's going to be some sort of flip where it goes from the mirror of the real world to this virtual Eden world, and that could be.
Do you think all the previous hosts will be there? The ones that are in the virtual Eden?
Well, they could be there, but the way it depends on how it's defined and how it was created. That if you can make it whatever you want to be, you can make it to where you're by yourself and you're not interacting with anybody, kind of thing, you know. Or
it's your everybody's own personal virtual.
The paradox of paradise is like, what if my mom is a horrible person, but I love her? Like, does Hitler get into heaven because his mom loved him? You know, because a true heaven to her would be with her son. Unfortunately, her son was one of the biggest pieces of shit to ever live. So it's like, you know, like, how do you do? Does your dog get to go? Does everybody get to go? I don't like my brother so
all
much.
Dogs go to heaven.
Yeah, you know, it's like, I don't like, yeah.
When Ketchita entered and he immediately saw his the love of his life, I forget her name. She wasn't a host that went in there. He like created her in there. You know, so it's like you can create whatever you want, kind of thing. So it doesn't really matter if they're there or not. I mean, I assume their data is still there, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be directly interacting with humans.
Right? They're not like living and they're the same. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. But isn't that kind of sad? It's like, well, I guess if you can't tell, does it matter? But isn't that kind of the commentary like of this show? Like, you know, like overall, like it's like they can create these fabricated realities, but you know, like what truly makes you. So it's like, wouldn't it be kind of like sad to know that like it's just a projection of this person using the data for them, like that it's not authentic, you know what I mean?
But perhaps you don't know that when you're there. So it just feels real.
Paradise is blind. Yeah, paradise is blind with ignorance. I like it. That actually is paradise. I live it every day. Mm-hmm. No, my problem is I think too much self-reflection. But no. All
right, Brett, you got to go into this fun prediction.
But there's another? Jesus.
Well, I call this. This is not really a theory. It's just it would be a fun prediction. It's not based on a whole lot other than the idea that if Serac is actually in Maeve's Pearl, then that opens up the possibility that if you want to bring Ford back for the finale, which who doesn't want to see Anthony Hopkins
we do.
again?
We want to see him.
When the waves converge.
Ford could manifest himself again from Bernard's mind, and then he could have a conversation with Serac, because it's not out of the realm of possibility that they know each other from their past. And so it would be really interesting if, you know, they both fabricated, you know, out of data and like had a conversation with each other.
I think that would be cool.
Karate fight. Karate fight. What do you think?
Ford Rock karate fight. Oh my, that'd be funny.
Imagine the dancing from Oceans with I'm blanking on his name, Vincent Castle, and then imagine Anthony Hopkins, like either Hannibal him or I guess him with a walking stick. I don't know, but yeah, it would be. I think it'd be close. So yeah, no, that's very interesting. They have to know each other. He sold the information, like the Man in Black. Well, he sold the information.
William did.
But Ford knows everything, so it's one of those things. It's like, is that the one? Like, that's a huge oversight.
The idea that Maeve's escape journey originally, maybe she was going to Serac because
we had talked about that previously.
Could she possibly go in the real world and be safe? So,
and they were looking. That was the original sighting of the mole. It was to seek that out. It's in season 1 actually. Charlotte's betrayal. Like that is supposedly her
Mm.
mission there. So for some people that think that was like whatever, their own idea, yeah, no, that's been there the whole time. It's a little bit hidden. But yeah, everybody was so surprised when they found out she was the mole. I was like, I thought they like explicitly stated this season ago. Like, I didn't get it, but whatever. Praise to whoever wants it, I guess.
Those are just the people that weren't watching it as closely.
No,
or
they're the people that
times.
those are the people that are claiming to watch it and be the authorities. So it's weird. I'm like, whatever.
Well,
Anyways, we'll cut
they're
it.
wrong.
Yeah, no, but no, yeah. Though, I don't want to cut the fun bag short. Is it? Are you out? Are you out of intelligence?
Yeah, I think that's everything.
You're like the Energizer Bunny of intellect, dude. It just keeps on going, and then I'm just like the Noid from remember the old pizza commercials? I stomp on it. I'm like and run away. So no, so that is.
I think that was Domino's.
One more real quick one.
See,
I'm just gonna say this because I visualize it. It would be really cool if that execute button that Dolores hits, the way they collapse to the ground reminds me of the way Maeve collapsed to the ground in episode 2 when she was yanked out of the simulation, and Hector kind of collapsed when he was yanked out of the simulation. It's not like they just like they're turned off, like freeze all motor functions, when they were decommissioned.
Yeah.
It's like, I wonder if the show is trying to tell us this is what happens when they're yanked from a simulation. So it'd be really cool, instead of like an EMP that went off, if that button just like threw their consciousnesses out of the simulation into somewhere else.
But the EMP would do that, actually. An EMP would possibly. Now, I've read, because everybody asks on the after show us, and I'm like, none of us have like that information, but I have done the research after the little bit of it, and there's the possibility that like people like, what's up with his earpiece still working, and they're like that would. So, but it would momentarily stunt these systems. So the simulation, in theory, it would make sense, at least especially with this show, because please tell me how the bullets work. You know what I mean? That we don't need that. That can still be an EMP, but that would like glitch the simulation, right? And they'd be thrusted in and out of it, which would cause that.
It could be both things, and it also, I wonder if that means that Solomon could have left the like Solomon could still be alive in some other level or something. Who knows?
Yeah, no, those are, we had so many questions about like that were just unanswerable.
The EMP is supposedly erases the data, right?
No, it's an electronic.
What I heard somewhere today.
If it crashes a system, it could, but electromagnetic pulse.
Right.
So it sends out a wave that is disruptive to like sonar, to any type of technology. It doesn't necessarily destroy it, but it's not. It's like smoking. It's not good for it. You know what I mean?
Okay. I did not look it up. I had heard that it erased, and I was like, really? Because I don't think they're gone.
It could.
Or it could be a lower level type of electromagnetic wave that's not going to destroy everything. It just, because this is the future. So it could be kind of like an EMP, but just not destroy everything.
Yeah, and an EMP doesn't necessarily destroy everything. It just, and by them saying it erases it, it could, but that would just be an effect of it being damaged from the EMP. Its sole
and
purpose
I feel like
is not
because
to erase.
Its purpose was to keep Solomon from leaving. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it would erase Solomon, as long as it stopped him by shutting him down. Like, who's going to be there to start him back up? So he's effectively erased, or not erased, but effectively dead, because nobody's going to come back and turn him back on. So, but then all those people are going to die too.
Yeah, I think they're going
to
be
in the pods.
Possibly,
pod people are going to die because the refrigeration is going to be shut off too, isn't it?
It's not going to be shut off unless
all the power went out.
No, it momentarily
it turned dark, and we didn't see it come back on.
But the way in which that would work is that it would disrupt. It would not destroy. So if
right, I'm not saying it would destroy it, but if it's shut off and nobody comes back to start it back up, how's it going to start back up?
Because it's not
again?
a switch shutting off like a few, like, you know, like a generator or anything. It's the pulse interrupts the flow of energy, and then once the pulse dissipates, the energy is able to operate again. Get what I mean? Nobody slammed the switch down. It's not a hard turn off.
Okay.
You wouldn't need somebody. I'm not saying, again, you maybe would need
I'm not arguing it because I don't know enough about it. I just was saying, you know, it effectively shuts Solomon down, which prevents him from leaving. And also, he's not going to be able to continue to run probably because I would assume that he's going to need some kind of intervention to get going again. But I don't know that for a fact.
And I'm not an expert either. Just what I know about it is that it'd be like, okay, so, you know, sometimes your power flickers, you know what I mean? But you don't need to go mess with your fuse box or anything. You know, like, it's going to cause something more along those lines. So, like, you would think that this quantum computing at least has a backup battery, you know, like of some sort. Like, I'm just saying it's not a hard shut off, but it could erase data because of a malfunction or, you know, any type of thing is possible. But generally speaking, I think we're led to believe that this was this was just a moment that they were disrupted, and it worked for what happened with Dolores and Maeve that needed to happen. And it's a brief disruption. It is not like the end of the world switch. Hypothetically, if.
I think it does make some sense. I don't know if that's what's going on, but I thought it was a fun little theory.
The road ends essentially in the same place that or it leads to the same place. So that's a very big part of it. Everybody else is like, it could just all be not happening. I'm like, so what's happening? And they're like, I need to back that up. I'm like, you should. You probably should. But no, you guys are fantastic. I think that this season finale, it's not extended from what I know. But you know,
we can hope.
It's got to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely, we know the show is going to happen, and that is breaking news.
Right, they're going to have at least one more season, and they've been contracted through 6 seasons, so
that's weird. We'll they planned on 5, and that's good. You know, it's important to note that HBO isn't so concerned with viewership as far as they are concerned with subscriptions.
Right, because their viewership has been lower this season.
As long as subscriptions aren't dropping off during this. The trends aren't showing that people are dropping. They're probably still showing that people are. HBO is working off a system of like Watchmen very much so kept people subscribed, you know, at the very least is their hope and a business model in time for Westworld. Westworld has to do the same thing for another show. You got your pillars, you got your staples that you need to keep people. You don't, when they see subscriptions drop, or they don't see a rise in them before, then that's something they would probably be worried about. I'm not speaking for them, but they don't give a shit if the people that give them money don't watch it, as long as they, you know what I mean? It is what it is. I mean, maybe they give a shit, maybe 1 or 2 fucks, but no, you guys have been fantastic. We've got Axel Foley joining us for the finale. I don't know if you guys are aware of him. He's the host of this podcast. Because guess what? I was just a simulation. Yeah, no, it's been so much fun. We met 3 weeks ago, and I feel like we bonded. We're pretty much best friends. And it's truly fantastic. I like doing this, video cast and just having this lovely discussion with people about a show that I absolutely love. Brett's theory, I'll cut separately as well. And I will try to maybe do 3 pieces of this and give everybody a little bit of shine because I'm a little bit lacking in brevity, so it's probably going to be a long episode.